Hey everyone, Liam here from AFC Motorcycles Palmerston North. Today managed to get my hands on Seth Henson's 2021 KTM 250SX-F and took it for a spin and giving you guys a bit of a review on what I think. The bike is fairly stock compared to like a normal KTM. It obviously runs the different wheels on it. It has Zeta levers on it, ODI bars on it, CFX seat, and obviously different graphics kit. But for the most part, it's pretty much a stock KTM, so give you a bit of a review on what I thought of one of these. It's probably been maybe 2 years now since I've had a 250 myself, so now currently riding a 350, enjoy a little bit more power, but yeah, it was cool to jump back on this 250 today. I rode it down at Tyres MX track, which is a sand track about 25 minutes out of Palmerston North here in New Zealand, and yeah, put it through its paces basically. So for me, riding the 250 again, I'm normally a 350 KTM guy, but it was good to jump back down to the 250 and kind of see where we're at with it. The engine on the 250, I would describe it as more of like a revvy engine. So what I kind of mean by that obviously is I find like you get a lot of the power from the basically from, if it's say talking engine revs on the top half of it. So if you're in a corner or something like that and you're going through the corner, and normally on a Japanese bike or something like that, you'd find it's a bit of a mix up between second and third gear to hit the corner. Whereas on the KTM, I feel like you can go in, leave it in second and rev it all the way out, and it actually pulls the whole way through the corner. Whereas on another bike, you'd be thinking you need to be in third, if that makes sense. Same for when you're going down straights and stuff like that, you can hold third gear a lot longer, or hold fourth gear or something like that a lot longer. And for someone like me that not a super fan of changing gears all the time, hence why I ride a 350, but I just find it a lot easier because you aren't chopping and changing all the time. You're not worried about that when you're coming into turns or going down straights, when you're kind of more worried about your body position and doing it right basically. Obviously, Brembo brakes standard on the KTM here. Obviously awesome brakes, provide really good stopping power. Once you get used to them, they're awesome. You understand the kind of feel that they give and how well they can basically pull you up. If you're coming off maybe using the Nissan brake style that you find on the Japanese bikes, you will find they're probably a little bit twitchy to start with, but you really kind of get used to that feeling. It doesn't take long, and you kind of get used to seeing how they work on the KTM. Chassis wise, for me, I find between the foot peg and the seat, and obviously the handlebars, all that body triangle basically that we talk about, is really comfy for me straight out of the box. I'm about 6 foot, so if that gives you an idea, I find it is good leg space down to the foot pegs, and even when I'm standing up, I'm not cramped at all or anything like that. And the normal, obviously this has ODIs on it, but the normal bar bend is a really nice bar bend too, and I never have to change them really. Suspension wise, obviously running WP front and rear, obviously has the air fork on the front side. This is probably where with the 250 it does kind of let it down a little bit, I guess. The smaller bumps where it's using the first part of the stroke, I guess, or when you're coming into turns, especially on a hard packed track, it wasn't as noticeable today in the sand. But that first part of the stroke where it sits before it's settling to go into a corner, I do find it a little bit twitchy in that part of the stroke. Obviously the bike not set up for me at all, and given time, like over time, you can obviously set them up for yourself and play around with clickers, change the air, like obviously the amount of air in the air chamber, etc., to make it feel more common for you, which is super cool about having an air fork. But I do find, yeah, straight out the box, it's definitely something that I would probably go straight away and try and work on that to make it comfy for me. But other than that, the suspension, especially the high speed kind of stuff, I found it super stable. The rear shock, like super good, just tracks really well through rollers and stuff like that. I kind of knew what it was going to do the whole time. You do notice on a 250 compared to like a 350 though, because it's obviously revving a little bit more, being a smaller engine, you notice it is a little bit twitchy in general, I guess you could say, at that higher speed, because I guess where it comes from is obviously the engine revving more, the chassis kind of under more stress, etc. like that. So you do find it is a little bit different to ride compared to a 350, is what I'm trying to say. If you're kind of want something that's like a little bit cruisy and a little bit more mellow, you want to go towards more of a 350. If you want something that's racy and you're a big rev guy, then a 250 probably is a better suited for you. But I'm just trying to say the kind of differences between obviously 250, 350 in terms of its handling, I guess you could say. Obviously, Dunlop tyres come standard on the KTM. Good tyres, you don't have to change them. The gearing feels really normal. For the track, I was on a sand track today, obviously. It felt fine for me. If you were going to trail ride it or ride it in open paddocks a lot more, etc, etc, I would suggest probably changing the gearing, because it is obviously more situated to a track. Obviously that's why it's the SXF model. If you bought obviously the XC or the EXC, it does run different gearing and a 6-speed gearbox on those bikes, so they're more suited for that kind of stuff. But out of the box, the gearing for the track work, primo. So to sum up, the 2021 KTM 250SX-F, awesome bike in terms of its power delivery and stuff like that. Buying it off the showroom floor, sorry. 14.3 they are priced at here in New Zealand. So definitely kind of, I think there may be a couple of $100 more than the Japanese ones, but you do get like the likes of a Brembo brake, etc like that. The first thing, as I said, I would do is I would set up that kind of fork so it does feel a little bit more planted when you're going into turns. I really like that kind of feeling. In terms of its power, sorry, it's amazing. It felt really quick, especially I like revving a bike a little bit more, so it did feel good when you're kind of still pulling in that high RPM, I guess you could say. But overall, obviously 19, 20, 21, the KTM has all kind of been fairly the same. They've made like slight few different adjustments across those years, so they're obviously due an update pretty shortly. I think they do one every 3-4 years. So but nah, it was awesome to ride the 250SX-F 21 today. Thanks Seth for letting me borrow his one. And yeah, if you guys want any other bike reviewed or anything like that, just drop it in the comments, let us know, and happy to help.